Alright everybody, welcome to Typography, the Kinetic type tutorial. I just wanted to walk through some specific techniques about how you can animate some of these things specifically and just kind of give you a general workflow and just see where it gets you. Of course, these techniques are pretty straightforward, and of course you may use them, but you don't have to. So I'll just give you a few examples, and here's the kind of the audio I'll be using. I'm just going to use one small excerpt of it, but this is pretty much where it's from.
Life would be a treasure there. Probably have some crap job. Chips are up. I don't have such a big bird, I would have.
My name's Becky.
I'd have no life, no friends, no future.
He'd be at home, sitting on his pod.
If I'd been born over there, I'd have been born right from God. Can't even imagine it. Can't even imagine it. The job was born here.
Alright, there you go. Wouldn't have such a fit bird now, would I? So I'll just use this little excerpt.
I'd have no life, no friends, no future.
No life, no friends, no future. So that's what we'll use, and we'll go ahead and do that a few times and see how that turns out. Okay, well the first thing I'm going to do is do one in Illustrator. I usually like to build my stuff out at 1920 by 1080 so that it's pretty much exactly like, oh thank you, exactly the layout that my video will be. So this is usually the simplest way to do that, and then we'll go ahead and get started. So with the selection of fonts you have, it's usually best to do some sort of sans serif font, something big. Gotham's a good one. Gotham bold, sure. So basically this is a pretty short little clip, so we don't have to have too much
No future, no friends, no future, no life, no friends, no future.
no life, no friends, no future. So I'll go ahead and type this all out exactly as it is, and you can mess around with whether you want this to be bold or black or ultra. Doesn't really matter. Changing it up a little bit here and there is usually a good idea. So we can go ahead and lay this out in a specific way in Illustrator, but just know that eventually you'll have some flexibility when you get into After Effects to sort of do this. And then what I'll also do is go ahead and split this up into its own layers. I won't do individual letters here. I'll just go ahead and save those for masking off in After Effects, but I'll definitely put the words on their own layers. And so after you type something in, you can go to the type and you can create outlines right here. So Shift-Control-O is the shortcut for that, but it basically, what it does is it turns the live type into shapes. What I usually like to do with my Illustrator files is go ahead and save a live type version over here, and then just do one into the shapes. So you can see that this is all grouped together. So like if I select one letter, it selects every single shape. You can sort of separate them by going to Ungroup under Object, and that's Shift-Control-G as a shortcut, Shift-Control-G. And you'll notice now that each letter is individually selectable. So that can be handy. If you want to group these together back in chunks of words, just select the word, the letters that are in the words, and just hit Control G for group. Control G, Control G, Control G, Control G, Control G. And sorry, for Mac users, it's going to be Command G. But I'm on a PC right now, so there you go. Alright, so what I'll do is I can distribute this to layers as well. So over here in your layers panel, you can see that it's like release to layers sequence. Don't use build because it'll add the previous layer to it. So just do sequence, and you'll notice that this all kind of went to its own individual layer. Just drag those down to the root. This can be just our, our layout one. And then a good idea for me is I'll always label. So this is no number 1. I suggest labeling these just because when you're in After Effects, it's a little bit easier to work with layers than it is to try to look at the preview window. Otherwise, you're kind of like bouncing back and forth between windows, just trying to figure out, okay, which layer is this? Okay, so that's pretty good. Go ahead and save that. And we'll call this No Life. Oh, 1. See. Okay. Now let's bring it into After Effects and get the ball rolling. Bring it in as a composition, import, and here is all our layers. Okay, so we'll make a new composition, 1920 by 1080. I'll go ahead and make it 30 frames a second, and for our purposes here, 10 seconds is fine. I'll go ahead and call this Master 01. And then we'll have to decide white on black or black on white. I don't think it matters too much. Here you can see that After Effects has put our layers in alphabetical order, which is, fine. But if you want to have the layout exactly like it was, you can come over here to the composition that was created when we imported and just copy and paste those, and you'll see that they'll come in the order that we constructed them. Now this is black on white right now, so depending on which one you're working with, that's no problem, but maybe we'll do white on black for now. Make the background black and we'll make the letters white. So one easy way to do that is, one, you can go to Illustrator, of course, and change that and just resave the file. So this is all black and this is white. So I did that, change it to white, just save the file, and it'll update here in After Effects. Another way to do it is, in case you want to leverage the same layer, like the word life, you want to have it on black, and then one time you want to have it on white. A couple effects channels will do that. Effects will do it. One's called Channel Invert. So what it does is it'll take the color, or black or white, and it'll actually flip it just as a straight swap on the RGB value. So that's kind of nice and simple. Another way to do it is with the hue saturation property under color correction, and you can just take the lightness or the darkness all the way down to black. Either one's fine. I'm sure there's 10 other ways to do it, but those are generally the ones I usually kind of go with. Okay, so that's pretty much it. I'm not super convinced about this layout, but I'll go ahead and bring in my footage. I'll just go ahead and drag it in here. So here we are, these guys. So glad they're born on one side of Manchester or the other. I wouldn't have such a fit bird now, would I?
I'd have no life, no friends, no future.
He'd be at home, sitting on his Todd.
Alright, so he'd be at home sitting on his Todd. Okay, so we did kind of, he does say I'd have no life. So he says it so fast. Look, I don't think it's worth typing it in, to be honest, because sometimes these things are happening so quickly with spoken word that it's just pointless to try to, oh yeah, let me make sure every word appears on there. He says, I'd have no, like, it's so quick, it's like, alright, you can type that in.
I'd have no life, no friends, no future.
But it's going to be much more visually interesting to just simply give more time to no life, no friends, no future, rather than trying to jam up those words because you decided to have I'd have.
Future.
He'd be at home.
He'd be at home sitting on his Todd. Okay, so just I'll turn off the eyeball there. I'll go ahead and clip this. And you can see here's what I got.
I'd have no life, no friends, no future. I'd have no life.
Okay. So let's figure out some like interesting things to do with this, alright? So it's nice that this is a sequence, so there's like some things that you'll be able to roll through. But we'll do some simple techniques so that'll kind of like get us some ideas about how we can kind of make this happen. For those of you who are laying stuff out kind of like really hardcore, there's a proportional grid, but there's also something called title action safe, which shows you kind of where the center points and some of the edges of your stuff will be, so you can kind of like grid stuff out. You can also hit Control or Command R, and like just like in Photoshop or Illustrator, you can kind of like do some guides to help you like lay stuff out. So those don't have to be on, but sometimes they're helpful to have them on. Okay, so this is pretty good, feels pretty centered. We're kind of doing an average here of where this is all at, and that's okay, there's nothing wrong with that. So maybe what we'll do is, because no life is going to come up first, we'll center that one a little bit and go ahead. Alright, so that's pretty much centered. If you guys are ever centering type, it's actually better to sort of skew a little high on the frame. It just reads a little bit more centered than skewing low, so just be aware of that. Alright, let's go ahead and get started animating. So I have this no. What I'll do for this first one is keep the same no, so I'll just not use that no, and we'll go from there. In fact, let me duplicate all these one time, turn all these off, and then we'll make these a new color so that we kind of like, you know, it's its own group. And then what we'll do is with friends and future, we'll bring those up here, kind of just lay them in the same spot. What we'll do with this one is we'll have the words rotate kind of shift on each other to kind of reveal the next one. Alright, so we'll start with life, and one of the things that we want to do is when we start using the anchor point, we want to move that to sort of like the middle. So if you're going to rotate words, have them swing in or whatever. This one we're going to have them flip. So what we'll do is bring an anchor point that's like right in the middle. And this doesn't have to be perfect. You can see that like here are our friends, right? This one isn't in the middle quite, so we'll just find a spot for it. And this is the anchor point moving tool, which is shortcut is Y. So there you go, this is fine. So now all of these have the anchor point in the middle. What we're going to do with life, friends, and future is turn them into 3D layers. So you'll see you'll get this other anchor point notification where it shows all the X, Y, and Z axes, and then you'll get extra animatable properties down here. So like you can rotate it this way, you can rotate it this way, rotate it this way, whatever. You get the idea. So what we're going to do is we're going to have these flip down after no comes in. So we'll have them say no life, and then it'll flip to no friends, and then no future. But the word no will always be there, so we only need one no for right now. Okay, well let's time it up and see how we do. So during I'd have, we want no to land kind of right where it belongs. So maybe what we'll do is we'll like have it like slide in from the side a little bit. So as soon as he says I, we'll have it just sort of slide in. Maybe we'll have it ease in, like it'll start off fast and it'll kind of gently fall into place. Kind of just a little no. And then, you know, some opacity change might not be a bad idea. And then maybe some motion blur as well. So we'll have no. Okay, so this flip will have to start happening almost right after he says no. So when no lands, life needs to start flipping. So we'll turn off friends and future for now. And then we'll get life to flip down. So this is the rotational property. Again, this is going to be rotating around the x-axis. And this is about when life comes in. So life. So on that syllable, like that kind of life, we don't want it to land on ul or f. We want it to land on life. Okay, so we'll have it rotate. We'll have it flip down, right? So it's kind of like, and that's pretty good right there. And we'll give it some motion blur too. And we'll have it ease in. Maybe a little extreme as well to get a real like kind of snap flip or something. Okay, there we go. So we can just leave this sitting here and then so here he starts saying no. So what we're going to do here is have friends flip down as life flips away. So we're going to have these things roll in conjunction with another. So the best way to do this is sort of like just have the rotation speed be exactly the same animation. But what we're going to do is, you can see that friends needs to actually start to flip down. It needs to start from here. But what I want to do is actually have it flip from -180. And then I'll set rotation points for each of these right here, okay? No friend. So like where he says friends. And then we'll go ahead and flip this one down. Right, because life is going away. So we'll have that flip down all the way to 180. And then we'll have this one flip up to 0. And you'll notice that now these are like flipping together, okay? And we'll want to, like, if we're going to do any snap flipping that we had talked about, ease out, ease in. You'll want to do that here. So here we go. Like, grab both of those and kind of get them to have a little pop to them.
No friends, no future. No friends, no friends.
Okay, there you go. That's the right idea. And so we've done this animation, right? And you're like, oh, well, I still see all this nonsense. Well, what you do is just simply cut off this layer here and begin this layer here. So you get this like this transition So I just have this layer end when it gets halfway and have this layer begin when it gets... Oh, I need to have motion bar on this, friends. And then if you need to, just offset a little bit. There's nothing wrong with that. You know, to see how that goes. See if that...
No friends, no future. I'd have no wife. No friends, no future. I'd have no wife. No friends, no future. I'd have no wife. No friends.
Right, and then, you know, I just watch it a bunch of times. Like, I feel like maybe it could be a little bit earlier, so we'll just move it 2 frames. Move everything over 2 frames, just a little bit earlier.
I'd have no wife. No friends, no future. I'd have no wife. No friends, no future.
There you go. Okay, so then, you know, you do the same exact thing with friends and this time with future. So we'll have no friends. So future. So I think few is when we want it to land, so we'll have it started when he says no. And what's nice about this is since this is a rotating, like the same process, what we'll do is we'll just copy and paste these keyframes right here, right? From the top one that flip down, we'll just use the flip down ones. And right here, do the same thing. We'll copy and paste this layer's flip down ones. And then just, I think, offset by like 1 frame, right? So that's a piece of cake, and then again when it gets halfway, almost halfway, let's see. Oh, did it not take the, let me see. Did. That did. Looks alright to me. Okay, for some reason these are going at very odd times. Let me just turn that off. Make sure this is...
No future. I'd have no life.
Okay, so we'll have this again. Click off right here is the last frame. And then future. We'll flip back in. Oops, I bet. This dude.
I'd have no life, no friends, no future.
Okay, future feels a little late, right? Just maybe again a couple frames. So we'll just slide these over a little bit.
I'd have no life, no friends, no future. I'd have no life, no friends, no future.
Okay, so that's a pretty straightforward example of how to use kind of like the 3D type, and you can imagine all the scenarios in which we could make that work, okay? And then if we wanted to add a little bit more life to it, like...
I'd have no life, no friends, no future.
You could have like no animate also. So here's the beginning of no. What we could do is have another no come in, like, you know, doesn't have to be this, but you know, you can add more dynamism to your scene if you just simply start dropping stuff in. So what I'll do is like I'll have it so this position is fine. And then maybe we'll go ahead and have this one fade out, one fade in as they go. And this one starting from here, and maybe this one will go. I don't know. Maybe no falls down, right? Just a little bit. Just pops down, and this no comes from above. Bit higher. Okay, so then what we can do is sort of offset these, that they're like, if I do the position easing out for the one that falls in, and you do this easing in for the one that leaves, we'll get sort of a crossfade, and then we'll go ahead and make this one fade out.
No friends, no future. I have no life, no friends, no future.
And you can have it even a little bit more snappy, right? Maybe just like, what are you telling me? Make it just a little snappier.
No friends, no future. I have no life, no friends, no future.
Okay, maybe a little too snappy, but you know, some of the stuff is going to be frame by frame, like kind of messing with it.
No life, no friends, no future. I have no life, no friends, no future. I have no life, no friends, no future. I have no life, no friends, no future.
Alright, so then we can just do the same thing that we did before. We can take these and paste them. Hold on 1 second. Paste them up here. So this is where no happens again. And with this time, what we can do is simply just take this layer, duplicate it, and then slide it over here and just be done with it.
I have no life, no friends, no future. I have no life, no friends, no future.
Okay, so you can see the timing is, you know, pretty close to spot on. So those are a couple ways to sort of change out words and get things kind of cooking the way they're supposed to be. Now, it's not always like super simple to conceptualize this. You just have to imagine, well, how is this working with the type and the way it's being spoken?
I have no life, no friends, no future.
Right? So there you go. That's pretty much the long and short of it. So there's other things we can do that could be interesting as well. Sometimes just bringing words directly on is a very simple thing to do. And even if you had just a little bit of movement, that's when the layout becomes more important than just the animation. So let me go ahead and duplicate these, and we'll take them up here. Go ahead and put those on hiatus for now. And we'll go ahead and like kind of do something more interesting with this, right? So maybe what we'll do is we'll take no and we'll make it like really big, like. You're like, where did no go? It's like right here. Boom, no. Maybe that's too crazy. Let's just rein it back in. Okay, so here's no, okay? And then we'll do some layout stuff with these guys over here. And maybe we just scale these all down. Center the whole thing. Now this, you know, doesn't make perfect sense, but you can see that what we're doing is simply just taking some visual cues. So here's our no. Let's just go ahead and use this layout and do like 2 different animations with it, right? So one, we can still do position. Let's see, so maybe we'll just have this like come up a little bit, or maybe we just have it like come all the way off screen. Let's get really super crazy dynamic with it. just for fun.
I have no life.
That's probably where it needs to land. Let's go ahead and have it ease out a little bit. Oh, wrong one.
I have no life.
And then what we'll do is we'll have life kind of pop on right here. And what we'll have it do is just simply fade out. So it'll pop on.
I have no life. No friends. No future. I have no life.
So we want no to kind of come up a little bit earlier, maybe snap on a little faster.
I have no life. No friends.
Life a little bit sooner.
I have no life. No friends.
Alright, and then we'll do the same thing with friends. So right when you start saying it, friends, we'll just take the opacity, we'll have it pop on. And then when you start saying future, we'll do the same thing. Have it pop on. And you can see that this is sort of like a metaphor a little bit, like things disappearing.
I have no life. No friends. No future. I have no life. No friends. No future.
Maybe what we should do is just have life pop on right when the no lands. It's probably the best thing.
I have no life. No friends.
Friends a little bit earlier.
I have no life. No friends. No future. I have no life. No friends. No future. I have no life. No friends. No future.
Okay, so maybe something that would be fun is just to have like maybe no like fades out over time, like the whole time. So as soon as it lands, it just starts slowly dissipating until it's like gone, right? And maybe we'll just go ahead and time it up here. We might get into Becky talking here, but it's alright.
I have no life. No friends. No future. I have no life. No friends. No future. I have no life. No friends. No future. I have no.
Okay, so you can see sort of like the words and the animations. The layout is important, but it's also kind of like expressing kind of this disappearing, no life, no friends, no future, stuff like evaporating, right? So the metaphor is summed up in the animation.
I have no life. No friends. No future. I have no life. No friends. No future.
Okay, so maybe now we could just do the same exact layout. What we'll do is we'll just go ahead and duplicate this. We'll make this another color. How about yellow? And so I'll save this here, but then all of these, like I can change out like the opacity and everything for these. Just turn these keyframes off, right? So now I have my layout, and they're just popping in at a certain time. So yeah, we'll be able to kind of control a little bit where the layout is, and we'll just kind of see. Okay, so no life, no friends, no future.
I have no life. No friends. No future.
Now you can see that's like sort of dry, right? It's like kind of like, okay, it's just super static, like nothing's happening at all. So let's just add a little bit of life to it, okay? So maybe what we'll have is life be down here. So it comes in like this, life. But then what we're going to have is friends. We'll set some position keyframes for these so we have them, because we want to know where they belong. So that's good. Okay. So no, we kind of know what that's happening. No life is fine. We'll move friends and future down. But what we're going to do is we'll have life start off. We'll have life start down here. Oops, grab the wrong one. Right, so no life will be right there. So there's where friends happens, okay? So what we'll do is we'll just take this and keep it down here, and what we'll have is life will go boom like that, and then eventually it'll get to there, but right now we actually want it to go right there. So we're using this keyframes to just position it where we want it to kind of land for now. And then friends, we actually want friends to come in here and bump life up. That's pretty good, but then it's going to have to wait a little bit until it gets bumped later. And don't worry about it, this hasn't like fully fleshed out yet. Okay, so we have life, right? It gets bumped up. I know it's moving somewhere, but it's okay. You can kind of copy and paste this, right? So you'll get the idea. He'll be at home, sitting on his Todd. Okay, so this is looking pretty good. Friends. And then future is the last one to come in. So no life. Maybe we have life come up from here. No life. No friends, and then maybe we have friends do the same thing, right? So this all may be, the timing of this all may be wrong, but that's okay because we're going to fix it. And then future. So we'll have future, kind of, it's we already know where that's supposed to go, so we'll just bring it down here. And kind of adjust the timing accordingly for all these. Okay, so you see now that we have like kind of everything moving the way kind of we want it to. And then we'll be able to offset these with some animation, right? So let's just see how that plays out.
I have no wife, no friends, no future.
Okay, so that's fine. We got the positions down. Now we need to adjust the timing and the feel of our animation. So life needs to land right here, so it's got to be quicker. And then maybe what we'll do is we'll have these start from an ease out position. Well, it's the first one. Okay, maybe we'll have it ease in. Maybe we'll have these speed up a little bit too. They're kind of a little slow. So I kind of want to bring them in quickly. And again, I always like, unless you're bringing stuff all the way from off frame, I like having stuff fade in. Okay. That's pretty good. That feels pretty snappy. So we'll kind of use this pacing. Okay, so you can see that this is kind of when friends needs to land. So again, we'll do the same thing. This one's going to get bumped. So, oops. This one's going to get bumped, so what we'll do is we'll ease in, and we'll have this one ease out, because this one's going to kind of bump into that one. So, but since I want this one to bump a little bit, life out of the way, this is going to start happening a little bit sooner. So I'm going to have friends come in a little bit earlier, and you can see that we're going to get a little bit of like a little bit of bump, right? See how it kind of pushes it now because I offset it. So this is kind of one nice way to sort of like have things interact with each other. Is just have them kind of like shove each other out of the way. Right? So you kind of see where we're going. And this is about right for this. So this one will have like all cascade a little bit, right? It'll be kind of fun. Because future is going to come in earlier here. And again, we'll have it ease out, so it kind of runs in a little more aggressively. And then you can see that this one's going to have to start moving too. Right about there should be okay. And we'll have this one be the last one to move out of the way, and we'll have it ease in, because because it's the last in the chain. Ay, 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 ay.
No future.
Okay, it started this one a little bit late. That's not bad. Maybe future can come in a little bit later. There we go. There's some nice space in there at
No
least.
future. I'd have no wife, no friends, no future. I'd have no wife, no friends, no future.
Okay, so no is kind of like very static right now.
I'd have no wife.
So let's just do something interesting with it. Position's fine. Just so let's see here. Grab this center here. This might get a little crazy, but whatever. Let's go ahead and just put, and then you can see, like, see how I scaled up no, and see the softness that I'm getting right here. One thing that when you start scaling Illustrator files like 100, 200, 300%, you'll get this softness, this rasterization. But if you come over here to this switch right here, which says collapse transformations, or for vector layer continuously rasterized, if you tick that on, you'll see that now I get my sharp vector layer back. So this is continuously rasterized for Illustrator layers, so you can get that sharpness back again. Okay. So let's do something super dynamic. So this is where it needs to land, and then we're gonna have this rotate in like kind of crazy. So this is where we'll have it start like that. Yeah, that's pretty good. So just maybe like 130, but then we're gonna also have it scale in a little bit too. So this is where it needs to land. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and scale it up. Totally fine. Maybe bump it over a little bit. Then maybe have the rotation kind of happen a little bit later. Maybe we'll ease out of this.
I'd have no wife, no friend, no future. I'd have no wife, no friends, no future. I'd have no wife, no friends, no future. I'd have no wife, no friends, no future.
There we go. So it's a little bit more dynamic, right?
No friends.
So there's lots of little different things you can do to kind of keep this thing humming along. So yeah, not every character or word needs like a ton of like love, but you know, every little bit helps sometimes. So just think of ways to be dynamic with not only getting stuff on, but also getting stuff off, because eventually we're gonna have to have Becky come in here and talk about him being at home sitting on his Todd.
No future.
He'd be at home, staying on his.
I'd have no wife. No future.
He'd be at home, staying on his Todd.
I'd have no wife. No friends. No future.
Okay, so sometimes the easiest way to move this stuff on and off is to simply just pre-compose everything and slide entire pre-comps off, right? So you see I have all these complicated keyframes doing all this motion, but if I decided I just wanted to slide the whole frame off, I could just pre-compose this as, you know, no future 01. Move everything inside it, and then you can see that.
Future.
So after he says future, you know, maybe I have this all kind of just slide down. And sometimes having things move with a little bit of impetus is kind of fun, a little bit of like momentum. So you can see that this is like simply sliding down, right? So we'll have it start a little bit earlier. Okay. So this is moving, right? But what I want to do is actually have it start with a little bit of bounce. And there's nothing wrong with having a little bit of bounce. So I'll just do easy ease. And you can kind of zoom in on here and get a little bit closer to see what you're working with. And then what this does is sort of like, it gives a little bit of hop, right? A little bit of, just a little bit, and let's see, I think we'll put some motion blur on the whole thing. And then you can exaggerate that too by just simply getting a little bit more hop. You can stretch this out a little bit. There you go. So you can see that they just leverage the power of the whole thing moving, and then maybe like maybe we want this to snap in a little faster. Maybe this is just a little bit too much dead air, dead space, so we'll have no come in a lot more kind of quickly and aggressively a little bit. And you can see that even like our no friends and no future, because sometimes funny, it's like, right, it feels a little bit slow even. You know, so you can definitely like have these things tighten up a little bit and get them a little bit more aggressive. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. You can just like go no life, no friends, no future, boom, boom, boom. Just, you know, so that it feels right, that it flows well with what you're doing and how it works. And so that's a pretty simple solution for all of these things. So let's look at real quick at like the ones we did, okay? So we'll start with this one that we just did. That's right. And then here's this other one that we did. Right, it's like not as dynamic, but you know, still gets the point across. And then here's this other one that we did. Sitting on this Todd. So you can see lots of different solutions for the same one. And then there's like ones that are like a little bit more hardcore. And these more hardcore ones, you don't want to do them too often. What you're really trying to do is leverage the letter forms to do interesting stuff, and that's when you start getting into the animated mask stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do just an animated mask tutorial for this one alone as a standalone animation. So that way we can kind of take a little bit longer to kind of get our ideas together and all that good stuff. So yeah, hopefully you guys get a grip on kind of what the process is and how to get through it. And then maybe what I'll do is with this other one, I'll just go ahead and add this second phrase coming in. He'd be at home sitting on his Todd. So that way we can kind of wrap up the entire thought. Okay, see you in the next video.